Hello, Eastern Washington Legislative Conference. Thank you so much for being with us today, for taking the time to be together in this space to help grow our community a bit more. My name is Fenrir Close. I'm a youth organizer with the Peace and Justice Action League. So, thank you. Our last panel was wrapping up with the question of how do we support, how do we engage the youth, how do we start building that next generation that can step up where our wonderful, I'm trying to think of a better word than elder, but I don't think you guys are offended at that. So first, we've got three lovely panelists here today, all youth community organizers or members of the youth community who are active in the political scene. I'll have them introduce themselves. Let's go this way to that way. And give us your name, your pronouns, any organizational affiliations you have, and one weird fact about yourself.
Hello, my name is Bella Rossi. I go by she, they pronouns. I go to Western Washington University in Bellingham, Washington. I'm a senior there, studying environmental education and eco-social justice, minoring in climate change. You want a weird fact?
Yeah.
I can belch pretty loudly, and it's like I can talk belch.
Can you do the alphabet? Can you do the
I can
alphabet?
do the alphabet and then also just talk in a full sentence.
Okay, talk to me afterwards. We'll see that.
Good afternoon. My name is Jada Richardson. I'm a member of the Spokane NAACP Youth Council as well as a senior social work major at Eastern. A weird fact. I mean, I can write with my toes, but I don't. I feel like we all can do that if we try hard enough, though.
You've got the dedication, though. You've got the dedication, you're locked into it.
My name is Lee Velasco. I work with Nuestras Raíces Centro Comunitario here in Spokane. I am the director of education, so I work with youth. I also do a lot of youth advocacy with them. And a weird fact, I don't think this is weird, but I really like D&D, and that's my weird fact, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a weird fact, but I don't have anything other than that.
I've never heard of anyone who likes D&D.
Neither have I.
So we have 6 questions for our panelists today, questions that they have seen before and have prepared for. But if they say something interesting, I will not limit myself to a follow-up question that I think is interesting that they have not heard before. So we're going to start with the first question that seems very relevant. In this current political climate, what do you think are the biggest hurdles for building community with young adults?
A major thing that I'm seeing in a lot of communities is a lack of equity and diversity and accepting all different types of people into a community space. A lot of the spaces I've been in is very not diverse. It's just a bunch of white kids, and I'm like, this isn't how big change happens. We need to be talking about big issues with the people that it's affecting the most. And I think there's also a fear of sharing deep feelings with other people and being vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage that is gained through having these deep discussions with people and being okay to be as authentic as you can be. Yeah, that's what I have to say for that one.
I'm so curious, so I have to restrain myself from asking too many follow-up questions. But in Washington especially, we're a very, very white state, unfortunately. So how do you think we can, do you have any ideas for how we could start incorporating that diversity, even despite our circumstances?
I would say being okay to be uncomfortable in spaces. So I think a lot of the time we fear that we're gonna, overstep or, say the wrong thing. And I think that's a process of learning and unlearning and decolonizing our brain is to be like, no, we are also here to make other voices be heard that are not. And so with that comes like honoring, yeah, there's mistakes that our ancestors have made that we have the power to change. And it comes with being uncomfortable and just being okay with that.
Thank you so much, Bella. Jada, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so also I just wanted to add to what Bella was saying. Diverse spaces exist all across Washington, so we know that these are not impossible tasks to sort of incorporate diversity into the spaces we're in. I think in order to do that, you have to be intentional and be deliberate about your actions, the actions of yourselves, but also what's happening within your space. What I will say about that is we're making a conscious choice when we're not inviting people into the rooms that we're in. That's deliberate. For some people, it may be like just an unconscious thing for them, but I think in 2026, it's kind of a deliberate task not to diversify your group. And so I just wanted to add that. But one of the hurdles that I've seen just in this political climate when it comes to creating community is Gen Z is such a spectrum. And some of us believe that community is the best thing and that we're supposed to be a collective. And then there are individuals who do believe that they're here by themselves and that they must care for themselves by themselves all the time. And so with that, these are like the conversations within our generation that we're having is how important is community? What does that look like for us? How do we define it for ourselves? I think in past generations and then years prior to this, community has been, it's not been problematic, but for some people, that's where they experience their greatest harm. And so as Gen Z, how do we redefine what community looks like for us? What are our expectations of each other? What are others' expectations of ourselves? And so just trying to navigate that all seems like a hurdle for my peers and then people I don't know also.
Lee, what are you thinking?
Well, I really want to highlight what Jada said about community is sometimes where people have been like hurt the most, right? And I think that was a really great point, and I want to really highlight that and really think about that. I am speaking from a point of view that I work with students, right? So I'm not necessarily part of the youth. I'm just someone that guides, right? Through that, in this current political climate, I work with Hispanic Latino community. I myself am Mexican American. I am seeing how everything is affecting not only the students, but it's affecting the family, it's affecting the 7-year-old that knows what's going on. And so a lot of it is not like, we want to start building a community. So for a lot of the Hispanic Latino students, and in this current political climate, is it safe for me to do that, right? Whether I am undocumented or not, what does that say about my mixed status family? If they see that my car is at a rally or a protest, is that safe for me? And then they're gonna know my name, and then they're gonna know my family's name. Is it safe for me to just be anywhere at this point, speak Spanish in the streets? And so I'm, like I said, I'm speaking from a point of view of working with the Hispanic Latino community. I'm speaking from a point of view that I've heard a lot from students, and that's a lot where their hesitance comes from. They want to be part of these movements, but is it safe for them to do so? Is it safe for their families? Because it's not only us that we have to think about our individual self, it's everyone else.
Thank you so much. We'll continue on to the next question, which is, in your personal experience, has social media activism helped or hindered in-person organizing? And just to follow up on the themes of our previous answers, I'd love it if you spoke at all about the themes of how people are sort of curating their experiences and are less prone or less willing to engage in discomfort.
I like this topic. As someone, I've been interacting with college students, and one of the main ways that I communicate like events that I'm doing, and I'm currently running a club focused on tending grief for the world and honoring hope, and that is an uncomfortable thing to talk about and a vulnerable thing. And I think social media is, yes, good at that like marketing tactic, but it doesn't usually, like in this case, make people come to a space. I think the in-person interactions are what is missing in social media and the way that people use it, and it makes us feel fearful of being in spaces where we could be uncomfortable and like afraid and self-conscious and all of these things that, and like comparison of what we've accomplished and what other people have and what we haven't and all of that stuff. And so I think there's a lot of like gray area with that issue. And it's something that I hope changes, and I think like collective action happens when we all come together in person and with people, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
Thank you so much, Bella. Jada, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I love social media. I'm not gonna lie, me and TikTok, we go together real bad. But I will say social media allows us to pick and choose what issues we're engaging with, because you can curate your feed. If I don't want to see it, I don't have to. And so the problem with that is there are so many social justice issues occurring in our country right now, in the world. But on social media, you can decide if you want to engage with that. And the reality is, for so many of us, that's not our lives. I don't get to pick and choose when to engage with the topics of police violence, because we're always talking about it. But if I was online, I can decide, oh, I'm gonna swipe this away, I'm gonna make it go away, or just things like that. And so I agree with Bella, social media is a great area. There's so many great things that come of it. The No King's Day protest is a great example of how young people were able to organize and use social media to gather a large crowd. But then there are other issues that are swept under the rug if we're solely using social media to connect with like-minded people. The civil rights movement is a great example of how social media, if it were to go away today, we can still organize. Students from Fisk University, Diane Nash, John Lewis, they organized and sat at counters in Nashville. They protested their school administration. MLK did not have Instagram. Malcolm X did not have Instagram. Huey P. Newton didn't have TikTok. You know what I mean? So while social media is this great power, we also should recognize that our ancestors and those that came before us didn't use it, and look what they did. So let's not become so reliant on that tool as the only way to connect with others.
I'm restating for my own purposes, just to like sum up. Your point is not that people are not engaging with the political climate through social media, but rather they would have a more fuller experience, or they would be more equipped to organize if they were doing it out in the world rather than picking and choosing, or?
Yeah, let me just make that clear. Mm-hmm. I don't think organizing via social media is a negative thing at all. I also think it needs to be partnered with organizing in real life, because ultimately social media might not be forever, but people are forever. And so how do we prioritize, engaging in communities versus engaging in online spaces? I think there needs to be a shift in how we do that. Yeah, there needs to be a shift.
I really like the phrase "people are forever." Yeah. Lee, what are you thinking?
I think for this type of question, it's important to like defer to youth, right? Like it's what they need, what they're seeing, rather than necessarily what we want, right? Like as I was gonna say, as older people, but I was like, I don't know. But one of the big things is I agree is that I think word of mouth is really important, and I think that's how a lot of like movements have been like happened, and how trust is built. So you tell someone this event is happening, and they tell someone else, and they feel safe there, and so it kind of opens from there. One of the big things that I'm seeing in organizing right now is that people will post a flyer of an event that's happening, but they won't post the location, and I think that's really an important one. It's important because it's reach out. Let me know if you are interested in this, because if I post the location, what happens? If there is a protest that's happening, and then there's someone that's going to be threatening to the people that are there, it's important to be aware of like what is the need of your community, what is the need of the youth, not only asking or like just thinking in your brain like this is what they need, right? No, this is a conversation. This is a conversation that we need to have with youth, with the people that are being affected every day. And I think that's where I kind of think uncomfortable conversations also begin. Sometimes I'm tabling and I come across someone that says something that is very uncomfortable, and how do you continue that conversation? How do you continue the table after that, right? So I think being open to uncomfortable conversations, but also allowing yourself to take a step back and really think about how that's affecting the person, I think is important as well.
Yeah.
I agree with everything they just said, but I also want to add, with social media, performative activism is truly a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone remembers 2020 and 2021 as
The black squares.
the black squares, where individuals were posting Black Lives Matter and they put a black square and it ended up drowning out all the stories of Black people. And so for me, I'm very wary of social media as a tool for activism because of things like that. Black stories, especially right now in 2026, you hear them, but they're so watered down. They want us to filter ourselves about our experiences. And so when it comes to Instagram, I'm a little wary of the whole like sharing a story because I believe that your life matters. Because I can go out and show you that I believe your life matters by my vote, by how I'm engaging in community, by the conversations I'm willing to participate in, even if they're uncomfortable. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move around the question order because I think this is good to follow the conversation of the panel. So we're going to skip down to the fifth question. What is your vision for the community you want to build, and what do we need to do now to work towards that?
This is like so hard for me to define in like one sentence because I'm a very visionary person and I dream constantly about what could be done to better our world. And I think overall, I want to see a world that is safe and healthy for every single individual, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your culture, how you were raised. I hope that a power structure is shifted and in some way removed, but knowing our country, it would take forever. Yeah, and I think as a future environmental educator, teaching the youth about the importance of connecting with the natural world and connecting with one another and learning these innate experiences and ways of living that we have capacity for within ourselves to just understand our role in this world and to lead with our hearts and make change possible through those types of dynamics, while also doing the hard shit and going out there and being uncomfortable and all of that stuff and talking. And
That was beautiful.
thank you.
I'm not as optimistic about how we go. I'm not as optimistic about how we move forward with building community. I'm so sorry. I think we all have this idea of we all have this idea of beloved community and what it can look like in theory. However, the reality is it's hard to be in community with people who are anti-Black, anti-indigeneity, hate immigrants, hate gay people. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to be in space with that. And so I think in order to build community, we have to do some deconstructing of our own minds, some decolonizing. We all have a bias. We all have biases. I have plenty, trust. But in order to be in space with each other, it's important to recognize our flaws in that way, decolonizing your mind, deconstructing. I've heard this conference talk a lot about faith, deconstructing your faith and making the choice to either rebuild it back up or discover something else. And what do we need to do to get to this idea of beloved community? I think it's ultimately starts with self-reflection. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of internal work to be able to recognize, like, oh, I had this thought and that's kind of a problem. Because you don't know it's a problem unless somebody tells you. And so in order to get this to this space, we need to have relationships with one another. We need to be in space with one another. We need to hold each other accountable. If I say something you don't like, please tell me, because I don't want to sit comfortable in my ignorance. I'm also trying to think of other things. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was not really like, yeah, community. And I am for community. I believe that we're all meant to exist amongst each other. No one should exist alone. But in order to get to that point of what that looks like, we have a lot of work to do. In 2026, as of today, I'm not so optimistic about where our world is going and how we're going to be able to share space in these coming days. But I do know it's possible. I look a lot to the Reconstruction era, Civil Rights era, and I'm like, how are they still able to be in community with these people? And they did it anyways, and so I think that's where some of my more positive thoughts come from. Like, none of this is new. It exists. I don't believe there's anything new under the sun. That's scripture. But I do believe that we have the tools to get to where we need to be.
Thank you so much, Jada. Lee, what are you thinking?
See, I think there's a spectrum here of like what community is, and for me, I'm leaning more churchy, to be very honest. But one of the big things I haven't thought about this question, right? Like, it's not something that like I'm continuously like, how do I want community? What is my vision for community to look like? Because I am often, and I think for a lot of the communities, like often like, let's survive today and then move on to the next day, right? And so I think that's what's going on. I think it's been going on for a long time. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Yeah. So everyone is kind of surviving, kind of figuring out what community for them looks like. I agree with Jada said. I love the vision and what community can look like, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I want it. I wish that could happen. But I think it's a struggle when we're continuously leaving people out, and I think that happens a lot. And to be honest, it happens a lot all over the world. It happens a lot in Spokane, and not to like call out Spokane, but it's the truth, right? And just kind of being aware of that and being uncomfortable in that thought, right? So I think that's where my idea kind of, there's no vision right now. Maybe one day I'll get there.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to what they said. In order to have community, we need to have people, and right now we're not surviving. We're surviving, not thriving. Mm-hmm. And so in order to get to that point, we, the people, need to be able to survive and to thrive. And so until like our neighbors and our family members, our children, our uncles, aunts, grandparents, all of that are to the point where they feel like they can thrive in this society we're living in, it's impossible to create community when everyone is in survival mode. Nobody's thinking about how can we gather together. They're thinking about how can I get it to the next day, so.
Thank you so much. One follow-up question to Lee. Do you, your main, well, you ended off with about how leaving people out is a big hindrance to building community. What would be your suggestion to how do we notice who's being left out in what community, and what can you do about that?
I think we talked about it, Jada talked about it a little bit earlier. It's just like this, it's very much maybe an unconscious, but kind of does feel conscious at this point because it's 2026, right? I mean, it's kind of, we are opening these spaces up, but who are we advertising them to, right? We are doing events, but who are we advertising them to, right? We are doing outreach, again, but like, who are we reaching out to? And it seems to be always the same people, right? Rather than opening up to everyone and really trying our best to be conscious of like, who are we reaching out to? What communities are we talking to? And I think that that's, again, like making a conscious decision of reaching out to those communities. Because at this point, that is not, it no longer it has to be our job to be like, hey, I want to be part of this because I can create my own community, but I would love to work with everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, we're gonna. Unfortunately, we're cutting out 2 of the questions due to timing, but we're gonna do just the last quick question, like kind of brief, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So the very last question, for anyone wanting to be more involved in their community, what are some concrete first steps?
Ooh, you want that brief? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's a to-do list.
A to-do list. I think believing in yourself that you are meant to be in a space that invites you in, and like knowing that community is not linear and it's necessary for survival. And I think we often forget to, like, we're very disconnected from our body and our mind, and so just going outside and taking a walk and meeting with your community and your friends and talking to the trees, hugging them. I love hugging trees. And accepting that love around you exists even in the darkness, and to know that your light can never truly be dimmed. Like, that is wholeheartedly like yours to protect and honor and harvest and cultivate and all of that. So yeah, to young people, like, don't give up on that. Yeah, because I know I almost have, and it's tough. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Bella.
Mm-hmm.
Jada.
I would say showing up is a really big first step. I don't know people's names, but there are some people in this audience who I see at like almost everything. I saw them at the MLK rally, I saw them at the MLK church service, and then I told Dr. Mace back there, I was like, I love that lady. I don't know you, but you have a special place in heart. But yeah, showing up, go to the meeting, go to the rally if you want to, go to the council meeting, connect with people via social media or in person. Would love to talk about politics or what you feel about what's going on over coffee. I think we should bring back coffee dates. But I do think like the biggest and best thing you can do is show up. A few months ago, I had not wanted to go to something, and someone had said the price of community is inconvenience. So also recognizing that sometimes you're going to be inconvenienced. Nobody wants to be standing outside in the cold, but sometimes that's what you need to do because that's what your community needs. So yeah, showing up, being there in person, online, either way, just make sure your voice is heard and known.
Lee, what you thinking?
A lot of the first steps is, my brain has multiple thoughts and it's trying to figure out which one to go with first, but it's finding a space that will teach you, because a lot of students, a lot of youth don't know like where to start, right? Where do I learn this? Where can I learn how to react to something, right? And so like I'm like, go to the NAACP, go to PJALS. They have great youth groups. Like, they really do.
Yeah, I started with PJALS.
Yeah, they're awesome. I had a student yesterday at an event that came up to me and was like, how can I help the community? How can I be a participant of this? She was really young, and the first thing I said was like, go to PJALS. They have really great resources. Like, they'll be able to teach you a lot. But I think also for a lot of youth is like understanding your own boundaries. We often talk about like how can you be an advocacy today, how can you find space in that? And so like finding the different ways of that, right? There's ways that you can help with creating social media posts or being at protests or being vocal. There's so many different ways, and I think finding for youth to find their own boundaries and find their own space rather than being told like, why aren't you at this event? Like you should absolutely be at this event, you have like no choice kind of thing. It's like, well, yeah, it's great if you can be there, but if you can't, if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel safe, if this is not the type of advocacy that you can do at this moment, what is the type of advocacy you can do at this moment?
We all have different roles in the revolution, okay? Some people prefer to march, some people prefer to write, some people are really good at making infographics, some people can speak very well in a crowd, and so recognizing we don't all have to be doing the same thing as long as we're all doing something.
Adding on to that, I think for a long time I thought that I always had to be like doing it and like being in that space to like talk in front of people, but I think through organizing and holding spaces like that in itself is an act of grace and an act of love, and is also a way to change the world through how we treat people. So I just want to say all of us are doing as much as we possibly can within our capacity, and I'm very proud of every single person being here today to listen to us and hold this space. It's immensely important, so a lot of gratitude.
Thank you, panelists, for those brief one-sentence answers. And we're going to open up questions to the audience. Yes. The question was, how are the disability is often an identity of intersectionality that's left out in organizing. So how are some ways that we can make protests and spaces more accessible, prevent people from getting sick, etc.?
So I just wanted to give some context. I go to a college that is, we have a like disability access center, which is amazing, but it's built in a way that is not suitable for a lot of people with disabilities. It's not accessible. There's too many stairs. And as someone, I have like a mental disability, but physically I'm like, I don't want these stairs either. And so I think there's a lot of talk about what the university can do, which is amazing. And as someone who is able-bodied, I want to respect every single person that has a disability. And I think choosing where I facilitate events is huge. So making sure that, you know, I'm on like a first floor where like anyone can access the room, and if there's elevators, I try to have the events there. And yeah, I think there definitely is more that I want to do and talk about, and I just haven't had those conversations yet, but I'm very open to it. So if any of you have recommendations, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I think, thank you for that, for mentioning that, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in thinking that everybody lives the same experience as us that, again, we are being exclusive. And so with that being said, I think the activism and organizing space is very able-bodied dominated, as we know. And I think a part of undoing that requires us to deconstruct this belief that everybody has the same ability as us. In order to sort of open up this space, though, we need to talk to those who are disabled. That's whose voice needs to lead the conversation of what do they need to see, what do they want to see. And so I think for the spaces I'm in, how can I uplift your voice in the conversations we're hearing, but in the conversations we're having and the topics we're hearing, but also Where are we holding our events? Who's seeing them? Where are they being posted? Are they accessible? So I have some reflecting to do, but thank you.
Having different actionable items that are accessible to people. So again, going back to the fact that not everyone wants to go to a protest or feels comfortable or is able to go to a protest, right? But like, what are the other actions that we can work together that it makes it accessible to everyone, right? But I think still having conversation, continuing to learn, because I don't think we're ever done learning. I think that's important to know.
I'll give one little moderator thought that disability people, when you are able-bodied, you tend to think that it is a different world, but you won't be able-bodied forever. So I think a lot of people making these sorts of events and these sorts of communities accessible can only benefit everyone, because someday you will wish there are no stairs either. And it's the same fight. It's the same fight all around.
Before we end, Nagmana made a great point. Race, class, gender, sex all exist at an intersect. So one impacts the other impacts the other impacts the other, and we have America. So I urge everyone to always keep that in mind. I lead with my Black identity. I don't lead with my identity as a woman. And then they intersect, and then that becomes the biggest thing for me. And so being conscious of how do our identities show up in spaces? What identity are you speaking for? What experiences do you have? We all have something to share. We all have something to give. But recognizing intersectionality is a huge thing. And for me and all of my friends, it's a big reason why we don't engage with everybody, is because people don't recognize how race and gender impact everything. So I just wanted to leave with that.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's give one last round of applause for our wonderful panelists.